So we'll jump right into it. We got a field specimen there. You can see Pinus strobus pendula. That's B&B 72. We always try to give you a few extra inches on the grade, and also giving you a little bit of spread on the head there. You can see there off to the right, and then Cheryl threw in what it's going to look like over a few years. It'll continue to just kind of spread out. They will maybe get a little bit taller. You know, you can train it to get taller, but it'll really tend to spread and move around and really turn into those real beautiful specimens that you can see there. They are somewhat adaptable, but do tend to prefer well-drained soils, and also tend to have the soils to be a little bit more acidic. So that's if you really want to be successfl, you really want those soils to be well-drained and a little more on the acidic side. So take a look at those. Next, we have burning bush, compactas. You can see there we have them in the pot and pot setting. We really like the pot and pot setting on the burning bush because we get a lot of space all year long. That really guarantees that we get that plant full space. That way we don't get that fan shaped type of growth. We get that nice round growth. We've talked about this in the past. Sometimes with field grown ones, you kind of see that fan shaped type of growth. You're not going to see that with our burning bush. They're going to have that nice round full shape all the way around. That's just going to just make it so much better. You're going to need fewer of them for more impact to really fill in. Very adaptable plant, and we're a full 30 by 30, just meeting our spec and ready to go. Next, we have Little Princess Spirea. Switch over there. You can see a current photo there. We do trim these this time of year to knock off the flowers from last fall. So that way when they pop, we'll have nice fresh growth coming out on them. And when they come out, it doesn't take them very long to start setting flower buds. But these are later in the spring when they'll start to bloom, and they really start to shine towards the end of May. So these aren't a Mother's Day type of bloomer. These are going to be towards the end of May and an early summer type of blooming plant. To really guarantee that you're going to have a rebloom throughout the year, the trick to keep doing that is just a light shear on this plant. And then it will continue to rebloom all season long, all the way into fall. So a little bit of maintenance throughout the year will guarantee that this thing will stay in color all year. One thing you do want to watch is most Spirea, aphids do tend to gravitate towards them. Aphids aren't really going to severely hurt it, but it can stunt them and can affect the flower. So we do a lot of spraying here in the nursery for aphids. It's just something that, you just want to suggest to people that they keep up with sprays on aphids on their lots. So it's just Spirea and aphids just seem to go hand in hand. So Ilex densa is the next one. Ilex densa, this is Green Magic, 3 gallon. You can see here. We're exceeding our spec. We're tipping out at 18 inch. Just beautiful, full to the bottom of the can. You can see there. That's a true today photo. The glabras are a good sub for boxwood. So the trick that we found really, and we've talked about this before, but we've changed a lot of our protocols. Is winter water. You really got to hydrate those things all winter long. They tend to aren't really putting new growth on over the winter, but they are using a lot of water. So we've had to switch, add water out into the nursery, and we are watering them all winter. So that is really the trick to be successful in the landscape. You really got to keep them kind of protected. It's not so much the temperatures as it is the wind, wind burn, and keep them in an area where they are going to not, up on a mound where they could dry out. They don't particularly like really wet feet. They can't be in standing water, but they got to be in an area where they're going to get moisture throughout the winter and not be brutally exposed. Then you can be really successful with this plant. Is Rhamnus fine line. This is a proven winter plant. We're over our spec. We're at 42 inch. This one is great for hedging. That's really what this is developed for. Its common name is buckthorn, and it's doesn't have a lot of issues with it. It's a pretty tough plant, good winter hardiness to it, very adaptable zones. You can see there it can go all the way to zone 2. Its claim to fame is it has that real narrow upright habit, so it's great to get it out there for any of those hedge type environments, where you don't have a lot of space. So this is a great plant for that. And last but not least would be mops, Chamaecyparis. This is there's different varieties out there, but we go with the golden mop. It's a variety that we chose to go with. It gives us the best color. Really, this is another one here that as it gets larger in the container, it tends to need a lot of winter water to be successful with it. So any of these larger plants, we really have to watch the water in the winter, which it looks like we've done very well. So make sure the customers are really watching that. These larger plants that we're sending out, they're going to be very happy with the size, but with that takes a little extra care. They're really going to have to water these things when they land on the lot. Even though it's still fairly cold out there, they're going to require water, and we are watering every day. So just to let you know, when we're not getting rain, we're watering every night. We've started that up, and the plants that you see here are getting about 45 minutes of water per night. So if they're not giving that plant that kind of care, they could get into trouble. So that's just something, please pass on, that watering once or twice a week is not enough. So these plants are active, and even though they're not putting new growth on, the roots are active and they're coming alive, and they take care. So if we really want to be successful, we really got to be out there pushing the water.
Next up we have is American Beauty's grass. This is big blue stem. This is actually a prairie plant. Remember, a lot of the prairie plants that are in American Beauty you're going to see on the soil. It's dry to medium. They can tolerate wet conditions, but for the most part, you really need to keep them on the dry side. Another note on big blue stem, it was out in the prairie, so buffaloes made good use of it way back in the day. It has an extensive root system, so it can also be used for erosion control. And if you want to scroll a little bit to the left, Lee, it's got interesting winter characteristic, fall characteristic. It's got a purple, reddish purple stems and our foliage. It will get 4 to 6 feet high, so it is a bigger, taller growing grass. And if you give it ideal growing conditions and too much fertility, it will fall over. As you can see in these pictures here, it is a little wispy, so you got to watch what you're doing with it as far as where you're placing it. But it has a number of different things as far as seasonality and what it looks like. It has a blue-green cast throughout the summer. 2 geraniums in the mix. This one's maculatum. We've grown it off and on for a number of years now. This is typically the one that you see in the woods. Common name's wild geranium. It's going to be 1.5 to 2 foot tall, 1 to 1.5 foot wide. It has green foliage. They call the flower pink. I would call it more of a purple pink. This will be better off in a moist, well-drained site and a little bit of shade. So keep that in mind when people are planting it out. It is good as far as bees and butterflies, zone 3 to zone 8. Another one that we've grown over the years is espresso. Bottom right, our left-handed picture there is, you can see what its main claim to fame is the foliage. It has a chocolate-colored foliage. This was taken last year, late in the year, I'd say probably September, October. The other picture does show the flowers, so it does kind of pop a little bit against that foliage. It's more of a pinkish lavender color. It does bloom in May to June, but the main feature of this plant will be that darker chocolate-colored foliage. We're growing it in a 1 gallon AB, zone 5 to 8, 1.5 to 2 foot high and wide. Common name on this one is spotted geranium. Echinacea ruby star, we actually grew this before we were in American Beauty, so we've had it around for a while. It is a selection from Magnus. The advantage of this plant is it's a little shorter, a little more compact than what Magnus is. They listed as 2 to 3 foot high and wide. It's a little bit stiffer, both in how the flower is and how the stalks are. If you look at these flowers that you see here, the petals lay very flat. That is one of the distinguishing differences between Magnus and Ruby Star. And the other thing with Ruby Star is it's going to have more of a pinkish purple color, or Magnus is just more purple. So it gives you a little bit better presentation flower-wise. All echinaceas are good for butterflies and bees, etc. There again, this is a prairie plant. We've talked about echinacea in the past, dry to medium. You do not want echinacea in any type of soil conditions where it's going to be wet over the winter. Crowns will rot, and you won't have a plant come spring. Cornuscusa, this is a B&B selection again, 4, 5, and 6 foot. The one picture there to the right you can see is got mature plants. They're going to get 15 to 30 foot high and wide depending upon the soil conditions. They do give you a nice display of color, as you can see here. Some of them are a little more fuller. This will bloom after Floridas, and the other advantage to Chinese dogwood, which is a common name, is it's a little more tolerant of different leaf conditions, etc. Don't hear it talked about a lot, but upper right-hand column there in the Willoway picture, you can see fall color starting to come in, so it does give you a good fall color. And the bottom picture with those little red balls, that's actually the fruit on the plant. A number of years ago, someone asked me if that was some type of fungal or leaf disease. That is the fruit. I don't recall if I've ever tasted it. I think it is edible, but birds really like that. So this plant has all 4 seasons as far as variety. It will also tolerate clay soil as long as it's well drained. You can see the dianthus here. We have rolled the sides up on these houses. It has the clear poly on it. As far as storage conditions, if it's going below 32, we will seal these houses back up and run minimal heat. But for the most part, these plants will tolerate even mid-30s and be fine.
Any other questions for Jeff? All right. Well, thank you, Jeff and David, very much. We appreciate it.